This week's Worst of the Week comic book, which was the easiest choice I've ever made in my life. When we saw the From the Ashes lineup, we were like, hey, there's a couple possibilities to be pretty decent, but there were a couple of titles that stood out that you knew were going to be terrible. NYX #1, Collin, Kelly, Jackson, Lanzing, Francesco Muratino on art on this one, and we knew this was going to be bad, and I've never seen a comic book live up to the expectation of terrible in this manner, Doc.
The art was mediocre at its absolute best, nonsensical at its worst. This is a not good comic written by not good creators with a not very good storyline.
Well, it's basically disguised as NYX, and you bring in X-23, one of the original members of NYX and all that kind of stuff. But this is just another Miss Marvel comic book, hoping that you don't realize it's just a Miss Marvel comic book.
This bears exactly zero resemblance to anything from NYX. If we remember the original NYX series, Joe Quesada hired Josh Middleton because he wanted to write a mutant version of that 90s movie Kids. This is just Kamala Khan and the New Mutants again.
Getting into the art itself, there is an enormous splash page. I think it's about 3 pages into the story. It's absolutely ridiculous. She's on a bridge. Somehow she's still able to use the phone, even though she's 35 feet tall. It looks absolutely awful. It makes you laugh when you get to it. The only 2 pages that almost make her look cool, they clearly are just trying to turn her into Spider-Man, to where she's going to use her stretchy powers to swing from light post to light post and building to building. The art in this book is not good.
It's literally Spider-Man poses. And in fact, actually, there's a couple of them. The one where she has her legs all tucked up underneath her, that was that's that J. Scott Campbell Mary Jane on the couch lower body pose. Except for now it's Kamala Khan swinging through the city like she was Spider-Man. The rest of the book, she's sitting there like this doe-eyed, wide-eyed idiot. Kamala is never going to happen.
And when did Miss Marvel go back to her old costume? I thought she had a new costume.
Yeah, she had that one for the X-Men. What the fuck happened? I don't know.
They're never going to be able to make this character cool or look cool because her power set is stupid. Let's actually get into the story now. She runs into one of the Cuckoo sisters. I think it's Sophie Cuckoo, and she's head over heels. She met Sophie Cuckoo, even though I imagine they would have met. But they go to class because everyone is just going back to school. And Prodigy is now the youngest professor on a track to tenure at ESU. And he's teaching some load of crap liberal arts Krakoan society class. I've never really hated Prodigy. I've never really liked him, but I now hate him.
I very much hate this character because the only thing he is smug gay guy now. At one point, Prodigy was interesting because he only was able to temporarily utilize essentially all of the intelligence of the folks around him. The great thing about the character originally was when he was smug, it was a completely unearned sense of self-entitlement because his powers were temporary.
And he's really the one that suggests that Professor X's dream is why the mutants are where they are and why they lost, because Professor X's dream was always for the mutants to be subservient to humans, which I don't agree with that at all. And that really Magneto was the hero, of course, of the story. He does get called out, I guess, by Cuckoos, like, what are you doing? You're about to be a tenured professor. You're working for the man now, too, or something. But nobody stands up for Professor X and says, you're full of shit, because the writers don't agree with what Professor X wanted.
It's 2 idiots that think they're smart. I have no idea what Prodigy was trying to explain. It was we're the oppressed minority, oppression Olympics.
That was rough. It was rough to get through that. But the comic book does get worse. One of the Cuckoos, I think it's Sophie, decides that she and Kamala need to go to a nightclub. And of course, she uses her powers to get them into a club that's exclusive. And even though the entire world hates and fears mutants, they've hired Enola to be a fucking bartender at the most exclusive, coolest club in the entire city. But it turns out there's a group of dudes, I don't remember what their name is, but they want to expose who mutants are. They want to expose their powers. They're putting it on the internet. And he goes to attack Enola, and they pull out a Crocodile Dundee knife or whatever. And this is the worst part of the book. It reflects poorly on the writing by Kelly and Lanzing, and it definitely is bad on the part of the artist. What Kamala Khan does to hide her identity is she stretches her face out and pulls her face over her nose as if there's not cameras, as if she's not having the same haircut, if she's not wearing the same exact clothes, and every other thing that would be identifiable about her is still on her. So now she's identified herself as a mutant. And it looks stupid.
Everything about this entire scene is nonsensical. They go to a bar that you're not allowed to be a mutant at, who has a mutant bartender. The Truth Seekers, that's the name of those people, all they're doing is minorly annoying a bartender until some other guy somehow managed to get a 14-inch long fucking knife past the bouncer. Why is the bouncer letting them attack his bartender? He's an employee. It's one thing if you want to turn your nose so you don't see them attacking another guest because that guest's a mutant and you're kind of racist. It's your fucking bartender. And as far as I can see from that scene, you're only bartender. So if he gets his arm chopped off, you're out of business for the night. Workers' comp policy is going to be a bitch on this one. At no point does Sophie Cuckoo, who has mind control powers, convince him to drop the giant fucking knife. It would have taken a minor push. That's how they got into the fucking club. And then the bartender throws out the mutants. And then they said, new rule, absolutely no mutants even allowed in the fucking building. Anoli's still the fucking bartender.
And then we do get them separating, and then we get the obligatory gratuitous gay scene to let you know that Prodigy has a boyfriend. Serves no purpose to the story whatsoever, but it had to be there.
I feel like the scene is here just to placate those 14 idiots that never bought the comic in the first place.
Basically, it has no purpose within the story whatsoever, but Prodigy's still gay. Then we get one of the strangest appearances. I think at one point, Collin Kelly and Jackson Lanzing were done with the script, and they were like, fuck, X-23 is going to be on the cover. She's supposed to be in the book. What do we do with her? She just like shows up, has a completely different personality, destroys the evidence Miss Marvel has about the Truth Seekers or whatever, yells at her and leaves.
Yeah, she just shows up dressing like Batman wearing a Wolverine motorcycle jacket to stab that phone that Kamala took from one of those Truth Seeker people. Kamala makes this big deal about the fact that, the evidence of what they're going to be doing next was on that phone. We have no idea of how to track it down. And then just 2 pages later ends up in the exact place she needed to because she tracked them down anyway. They just stuck X-23 in this for the sake of doing it. She just has to be grumpy. It's like they're trying to turn her into just Wolverine with a vagina now. I'm sorry. All they had to do was go call Jason Aaron. He already wrote Wolverine with a vagina for 10 years.
Yeah, it's just a scene out of nowhere because she's on the cover, so they had to put her in there and then to destroy something that meant nothing because she ends up in the train station and is saving everybody because the Truth Seekers are actually the ones doing the terrorist acts to set up the mutants to make them look bad. And then the Krakoan shows up and she's so angry. She's like, my goodness, you're a mutant. You're supposed to be on the mutie side.
I'm still kind of lost at the logic here. The Truth Seekers are actually the terrorists, but they're using an actual mutant who's also the one that's in charge to actually do the terror. And it's the Krakoan, and he's wearing a Cerebro helmet, but Magneto's old costume, and other bits and pieces of holy shit, it's fucking Combo Man. And everything he touches turns green, and everything he's influencing has a green hue to it. He's trying to throw a train full of people at other people that were on the ramp. And somehow Kamala is able to stretch Biggie size herself. I'm going to call it Biggie sizing, like it's goddamn Wendy's. Fuck embiggening. But somehow it makes her like freakishly strong. She's not fucking giant, man. She's lame Mr. Fantastic. It doesn't make her like able to hold up a 45, 80-ton train car.
So at this point, I was relieved. So I was like, oh, thank God, the Krakoan showed up. It's got to be the final page. The comic book's got to be over. And fuck me, it went on for 8 more pages. Apparently, they needed to show them eating food again. Now, we did see Prodigy and his boyfriend eating Chinese takeout. Serves no purpose to the story whatsoever, but we got more foodie scenes Maybe so they could charge an extra $1 for the issue to make it plus size, biggie size, and big and sized, maybe.
I will say that they managed one thing in this plot. They managed to turn the entire thing into like a giant Mobius strip in my memory. It's like a giant loop that doesn't end. Because every time I think that, oh wait, this happened, then this happened, then this happened, and then it curls back to the beginning. And I'm like, wait, did this happen before it or after that? And I can't fucking remember because
it doesn't matter.
Because it doesn't matter. We needed to have Kamala have her pastry scene. We then needed her to have a borderline lesbian romance. We're getting to know each other. We're laying our hands upon each other with fucking Sophie Cuckoo again. Then we needed to move on to the Quiet Council, and even their thing is still centered around food and drink because we learn who the Krakoan is. It's just Hellion with a dumb costume and a dumb
It's
name.
Hellion, an empath, and the Stepford Cuckoos, I'm assuming minus Sophie. Yeah, that was the big final page reveal. I guess it's not the final page because there is a QR code with something else that I couldn't be bothered to go look at.
I did not.
Is empath controlling the Cuckoos, or are the Cuckoos happy to be a part of this?
Honestly, I think the Cuckoos are perfectly fine to be part of this. You have 4 of the 5 Stepford Cuckoos, so ostensibly Sophie's the one that's missing, at least in theory, because they don't bother to explain which one's which in this. But you also have empath and you have Hellion, and all 3 of them are psychics. So it seems like a little fucking overload here.
I don't get it either, but that's your big reveal. That's the big payoff for the comic book that I thought was over 8 pages prior, and I really had wished it was over. Not exactly something to get excited about.
This time I didn't look at the QR code. I don't care. I'm done dealing with it. This story was nonsensical with, at best, moderately approaching competent art, and for them, but even then, there was a lot of nonsensical bullshit in it.
Nonsensical bullshit would have been a better name for this book than NYX #1, but we got through it. This is easily the worst of the From the Ashes comics so far, but it is only the 3rd. They have an opportunity to do worse. I think Exceptional X-Men will certainly challenge for that crown. There's a couple other titles I think people should be looking out for. We just got the creative team on Psylocke. Alyssa Wong probably shouldn't be excited for that book either. But this is, I don't know, it's like the perfect smorgasbord of why Collin Kelly and Jackson Lanzing are Collin Kelly and Jackson Lanzing. And this book won't be around to see issue number 8. They fall on the tropes of bigotry and all that kind of stuff far too often. They cannot find a voice for any character whatsoever. None of their plots are cohesive or coherent. They don't transition through the story. And it's just stuff happening because stuff needed to happen. And it's just awful. It's almost mind-numbingly awful. It's just how bad this book is. I don't particularly like the art. There's a few pages where it works. I think the look of Kamala is bad. She has a feathered haircut. This isn't the 70s. It's not the 80s. It doesn't work for the character. Whenever she's using her embiggening power, she looks ridiculous. The only time she looks cool is when she's clearly imitating Spider-Man. She's never going to be Spider-Man. I fucking hate this book. I will give it, oh my goodness, am I going to be too generous? I'm going to give it a 1 out of 5, 2 out of 10. Enormous fail.
I give this book a 3/4 of a star out of 5.
1.5 out of 10. That's pretty good.
I didn't hate it as much as you.
What are you talking about? I gave it a better score.
Oh yeah, you're right. You did give it slightly better score. I just don't think it made me as angry as it made you. I just didn't like it. It was just boring and dumb.
At this point, there's no real reason to get angry about stuff like this. It is what it is, but it's exactly what we knew it was going to be. This isn't worse than we thought it was going to be. It doesn't destroy characters worse than they thought they possibly could. It's exactly what it is. So it is very easy to be apathetic to it and not even really, I don't know, treat it as a real comic book, because it's not really. It's just there.
Nobody else is treating it like a comic book. You shouldn't either. We get to see the beginnings of Miss Marvel Kamala Khan fail for the 10th time in the past 10 years.
If you would like the full review, because we did go nearly 30 minutes talking about NYX #1, because it is a doozy. Here on YouTube, we have the edited version. You'll need to go to Thinking Critical Patreon and visit the Doc is Right tier, where you get Doc Unfiltered. That'll have this full review as well as the conversation about Jim Shooter yesterday. We also have a Q&A. We've got the Hot or Not podcast. Plus, you get all the stuff from the other tiers, If you haven't checked that out and you want some more Doc in your life and some great comic book content, there's awesome podcasts. There's a link in the video description.